What's up? What's up? What's up? Having a little trouble with going live on Twitter today. So if you guys are watching us, everyone's gonna be on YouTube. So love to have y'all. Make sure y'all like, sub, share. This is 713 Football. We're gonna have the great Jeremy Chuggs from at Texans TV Chat Sports. Texans is gonna come by. He's stuck in a little traffic, but all good things. What's the phrase? All good things you gotta wait for him, right, or something like that. So let me just respond to one thing. Today we will be working on a couple of different things. We're gonna go through our Texans free agency reaction. I'm gonna wait a little bit until he gets here to go through some of the positions. What I'm gonna jump into initially. One second. Let me keep this rolling. I'm going to start off with this. We're going to talk about what's next. One moment. A little technical thing. All right. So the first thing we're going to run through is kind of what's next. Hope everyone's good out there. Make sure y'all like, sub, share. If you want to become a member, the button's on the YouTube page. If you guys want to do that, and let us know we're out there. Facilities out there. I see you making some interesting classic jokes out there. So I feel you. If you guys, anyone wants to come through, let me know, man. Just send a message, and we can see if I can answer your questions, especially at the beginning while we wait for Jeremy to show up. But just jump right in. So a lot of stuff going on. There's for everything. The first day seemed kind of slow. The second day kind of went on acceleration. Just ramping it up to 100 right away. There was no brakes, all gas. So the very first thing that we're going to talk about is what is next. And I can say the first couple of things, like we saw, they addressed the O-line. I'm really excited about what we've seen so far in the free agency, right? And reaction wise and everything. I can't really be mad about anything. I'm glad they didn't go out and kind of overspend on offensive linemen that they weren't really convicted about. There's a bunch of rumors that I'm going to get through in a second of guys they kind of went after, but they didn't kind of overpay for. We've seen this before, the Nick Caserio. Oh, man, we already got our first super chat. My man Frank Z's in the house. Oh, yeah, by the way, I know some of y'all are coming in. It's like, all right, where's Leo? We just got Josh today. Leo's feeling under the weather. He's on the injured list. He's inactive for the game, but he'll be back for next game. Or next pod, however you want to view it. So let's see what Frank Z has to say. He's jumping right in with the Braden Smith commentary. He said Jonathan Taylor tied for second in rushing yards. Just curious if most of JT's runs were on Braden Smith's side. Looking forward to a decent run game, though. Man, me too, man. I think it's really fascinating when you look back and you kind of look how they've built everything. There's been different phases of kind of how that offensive line was built and put together and everything with the Colts, right? You had that first phase where you had Braden Smith on the right, you had Costanzo on the left, you had Nelson, and I believe it was like Glowinski was on the right too. And then they went to that next phase where Braden Smith was there. And they switched over and they kind of had a rotating door on the left side a little bit, but they still had Quentin Nelson. I feel like when you go back and watch a lot of their run game, they kind of built everything. And Ryan Kelly in the middle, of course. Like, I shouldn't underrate him. He kind of fell off the face of the earth. I believe he either got cut or retired this offseason. So as long as he's out of the division, he's not giving us trouble anymore. Here, let me close this because it's kind of distracting. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, it's a little bit better. So yeah, in terms of Jonathan Taylor in the run game, to me, when I go back, I jumped in and watched a bunch of tape like as soon as this signing went. It's funny because if you guys go back and rewatch our needs video we did about a month ago, one of the very first names, the camera's slipping a little bit. One of the very first names I mentioned was Braden Smith. So I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back there because I just thought like he was one of those guys where I would love the idea of going in, taking a guy from your rival, grabbing him, bringing him over to you, making your opponent worse at the thing that they have to be good at on offense, right? with the Colts, and now you're making yourself better at the position and the phase with how CJ Stroud's playing now, at the phase that you have to be the best at, right, at this point. And you have no room for error. You have to build it in a way that is CJ Stroud proof moving forward. And I think this is the first move. And the thing that excites me, and it goes back to what Frank's talking about in terms of the run game, he's a plus player in the run game. There's no question. And he's not just a right tackle. I know Lance Zierlein has been getting into it with people on Twitter about, when is he not? Like, he brings the fire, and then some people kind of, aren't big fans of that sometimes. So, like, some of the things that he was talking about, how he started off as a guard in college. They went and they played him a little bit at tackle. It didn't really work out as a tackle in college, moved back to guard. Then he went into kind of what we talked about as like this kind of pseudo tackle that only worked kind of within the scheme of the Colts because of how much they ran the ball. They decided, we're going to play him here. We're going to draft him here. We're going to give him a contract, massive contract here. We're going to play him all the way through. But really, throughout the time, if you look at his arms, he's got shorter arms than Will Campbell, which is kind of crazy with everyone kind of spinning around and talking about how short arms kind of lost them the Super Bowl, this and that and all that, right? But I think it's exciting because you have a guy that you can come in now, blank slate, and the money you gave him isn't prohibitive where you have to play him at tackle. Like, was it 25 over 2 years? It's not something where you really have to be too worried about that. So when you look at that and you say the money is decent, but the money is a good number where you can bring him inside, have that flexibility that you had with Titus Howard previously, right? You got rid of Titus, who was a plus, never really been a plus in the run game, and that's speaking nicely, right? So you now have a guy that can play inside if you need to. If you have one of these tackles, if you're able to draft a tackle in the draft, and you kind of move him around and fit it around. And I think what's going to happen initially that's kind of exciting, and we'll talk more about it when Jeremy gets here, but I think initially, I just speak it, and he comes into existence. Let's see if I can add him to the stage. All right, we got him.
Yes, sir. What's up, Josh?
Fresh out the traffic. He survived.
Yeah, dude, it's wild out there. But, hey, got through all the craziness, got through all the crazy driving, and I'm here. We made it. Texans, day 3 of free agency, day 1 of the actual tampering. I think they got to get rid of all this with the Max Crosby drama going on.
Right.
But we're here.
It feels like dog years, right? It feels like there's no one. It's like every hour is a year. I feel like I'm like spinning a little bit. And we just while you were coming in and everything, we already got our first super chat. So I wondered your idea on this. We'll jump into the topics, and there's so much to talk about. But specifically, Frank Z wants to know about Jonathan Taylor, how he tied for second in rushing yards during the, last year, I believe. He's just curious how much of JT's runs were behind Braden Smith's side, and he's looking forward to a run game. Kind of what are your brief thoughts, because we'll get in more to detail. Like, what is your relationship, and how much do you think we can take from that kind of into this year?
Now, I think the one thing that the Texans have kind of showed us in free agency with making Ed Ingram a priority, and then now Braden Smith. Now, whether you want to believe, I kind of talked about Lance Zierlein's report of the possibility of moving him to guard. That's neither here nor there. If they keep him at right tackle, though, like you're talking about with Jonathan Taylor, with the Colts, their running game, that running game to the right side behind Ed Ingram and Braden Smith, if he's the starting right tackle, I like it. I think they'll be able to, get more of that power running game going. Braden Smith, he's dealt with some, injury concerns off the field, issues with his mental health. But, back, I want to say in 2023, and PFF, they're notoriously tough graders. I always say take PFF with a grain of salt. They had Derek Stingley as like the 50th ranked corner this past year. So they've got some stuff wrong. But the one thing I do like about them is their offensive line grades. I think they do a pretty decent job. He had a 90 run blocking grade in 2023. So that's one thing he can do good. And as Lance Zierlein mentioned in his report about him possibly moving to guard, that's one of his biggest strengths is in the running game. And that's what the Colts have been able to do with him as their starting right tackle is run the football. So I think I'll be looking forward to that running game with him on the right side. Ed Ingram, that's his biggest strength as well, is in the run game. And I think Nick Caley, DeMeco Ryans, they realized if we have a good defense, we got to have a good running game. And I think you'll definitely see that on the right side with Braden Smith, with Ed Ingram, if they choose to do that with him being the starting right tackle.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Just jump right in. I think it's the perfect segue. Thank you, Frank. Man, y'all, if anybody wants a question, we will drop whatever we're doing. We'll say thank you. We'll say hallelujah. Don't have any bumper music, nothing crazy, but like we'll jump right into whatever question y'all want to ask. We'll drop whatever we're doing as long as it's not. I mean, depends how crazy the question is, but you know how it is.
Drop to 50. I'll go grab a beer and we'll start chugging some. Let's get it.
Absolutely. Jeremy Chuggs should change your name to, is it Chuggs or Chubbs?
Chuggs, yeah, got
Chuggs.
My mom was a chugger. Her mom was a chugger, so it just runs in the family. You know, we're
yeah.
chugging.
Have you done that show yet?
I have not yet. I have not. People are asking about it, but I've yet to do the full on chugging show. So
yeah, you got to save that for the Super Bowl or something. You know.
Oh, dude. I mean, if the Texans made the Super Bowl, bro, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
All right, let's see why this is. There we go.
There will be grown man tears if that happens.
Oh, absolutely. And the way to do it, segue of all segues, is the offensive line with where we're at, right? So let's just kind of run through what happened real quick, and then I'll get your thoughts on kind of overall what you think the plan is and what you think, what your plan would be kind of thing. But jumping in, like, first of all, we got Braden Smith. Everyone heard about that. Everyone knows 2 years, $25 million, 13.5 guaranteed. Freaking highway robbery for me, like with how good he was. He's a guy I was screaming about like a month ago. We put out a video of our needs. He was the first offensive lineman I wanted back. I wanted on the Texans. Then moving on to Ed Ingram is the second guy. I didn't think we would get him back. This was a big surprise as well. 3 years, $37.5 million. I thought he would cost a little bit more, kind of the numbers thrown out. The problem is with a lot of those numbers you hear, that's all stuff coming from agent side. So they're trying to push the numbers up. They're trying to get their guy money, which I 100% understand, right? So you secured that. You've got two quality guys in the run game. You brought back Trent Brown for a 1 year, $7 million. It's not fully $7 million in guaranteed, so that's an easy contract to kind of move around if you need to use him as a swing tackle. You got that. You got Titus Howard out of there, coming to the run game, and then you got Juice Scruggs out of there, who was one of our worst gap blocking run blockers. Good Lord, words. But yeah, so we got those guys out, added to what we have with Ursery and all the different pieces. With saying all that, what do you think the plan is now with the offensive line? Seeing kind of where it's at right now, obviously it's going to change more, but kind of what's your feel? What do you think the plan moving forward is and the vision is for this offensive line?
I think kind of like what I was alluding to earlier, I think DeMeco Ryans is pissed about not getting 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. I think he's pissed about the fact that, yes, in that Steelers game, the Texans were able to run the ball with Woody Marks well, but in the Patriots game, in the divisional round, what did we have, like 30 rushing yards? Like it was abysmal. And if the Texans are going to keep on going with the number one defense in the NFL and DeMeco's biggest strength, you need to play time possession. You need to be able to control the rock. And the only way to do that is running the football. And I think they said, Titus Howard, he's a really good pass blocking tackle. He's an okay guard, but, I think he really excels at pass blocking at tackle. Run blocking is, average. I would say, Juice Scruggs, he's not as heavy as you would want at a guard, not a mauler by any means. Let's ship him out of here. Let's get big guys on the interior, big guys even on the outside, like Trent Brown. I think that was a just in case. He can start if the Texans needed to, but it also, up to $7 million, that gives them the flexibility to go out and sign a Braden Smith and have him start at the tackle spot. I think this shows the Texans, especially, possibly if they go out and get, one of these other guards in free agency, whether it's Batonio, whether it's Wyatt Teller, whether it's any of these guys. I think all of this shows you, not that they don't have faith in CJ Stroud, but I think this is them saying, part of the reason why CJ Stroud's struggling is the lack of run game. And if you go back to 2023, CJ Stroud, his stats, whenever he's coming off of play action, they were phenomenal. And you can't have play action if you don't run the football well. And I think that is one of the Texans' biggest weaknesses that they are looking at this offseason of how can we fix the run game? Because, we don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened to Joe Mixon. And I think people get the wrong impression of me of that I dislike Joe Mixon. I love Joe Mixon. Whenever he was on the field, I think he actually masked a ton of problems within the Texans' run scheme, run blocking up front, his ability to make guys miss in the backfield. You didn't have him last year. And Woody Marks, he's not bad, but he's not that same level of talent of Joe Mixon of making guys miss in the backfield. David Montgomery, I don't think he has that same ability to make guys miss as Joe Mixon. He's a really good runner, a tough runner, has really good vision. But I think the Texans are saying, hey, we want to get stronger up front. And, part of the struggles of 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 in the red zone, DeMeco wants to play some FU football. And I think these signings are showing that.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned we're not going to get in deeply into it, the David Montgomery signing, and kind of now that you saw recently going to get Foster Moreau, who's a solid, big physical blocker. He kind of had a weird year last year. They asked him to do a lot of receiving at first in New Orleans.
He also rushed back from injury by one of my guys, Trizzy Trace. He runs the Saints channel at Chaz Sports. He was telling me that he came back like 2 or 3 weeks sooner than what he was scheduled to. He was rushed back into it. So there was still some of that rust that he was knocking off for the first 4 or 5 games of him coming back. And then also the Saints were kind of a dumpster fire last year as well. But he did say, the one thing he did say to me, as you mentioned, good run blocker.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think as he physically comes back, it's always with those big-time injuries, it takes a year. You don't see that same player until a year after. So we may be hitting it right in time with kind of the right, timing with him. I think it's exciting. The thing that we really that you hit on is with David Montgomery and the way we have to build is the biggest thing that I think kept us from winning more games and especially being more consistent early was our offense in the red zone and our ability to score touchdowns instead of field goals. And that would have in a huge way, I think, created situations where we would have been able to roll with the punches a little more when CJ had these kind of brain dead moments of throwing interceptions or fumbling this or that. If we were getting 7 instead of 3, because you saw it with Josh Allen in the playoffs where they were turning the ball over, but they were scoring 7 when they were getting down there and different things like that. And I think the only way you can do that, and the thing that Nick Caserio, my theme for this offseason is they are learning from what they learned. They are learning from what they found out last year. They're not kind of resetting and trying to just kind of continuing chasing an idea of what it was starting last year. They're leading into this big offensive lineman thing, and I think you can see that across the board. And Braden Smith coming in and being that flexible player, and I think Ed Ingram has some flexibility left to right. I just think there's going to be some interesting movement and kind of how they kind of line everything. I think the big question mark is that I think you can find a left guard. There's enough options out there. What are you going to do at center? And I think that's what the fascinating. That's where Nick Caserio is going to make his money moving forward. Kind of what is he doing with center? Because that's going to change everything when you have a quarterback that's out there playing kind of skittish the way he did against quality opponents.
The good news on that is, I've been kind of getting into it with some of the guys at Chat Sports with our draft prep, kind of looking into it. I actually really like the center class that is coming out in this year's draft. One guy in particular that I am kind of eyeing in on, and I know you love O-line, you love looking into these guys, Logan Jones from Iowa. The Texans, they brought in James Ferentz, son of Kirk Ferentz, who I believe is the longest tenured head coach in college football now for the Iowa Hawkeyes, maybe second or third longest tenured.
Yeah, he's got Godfather status at this point, for sure.
But if you look at his tape, if you look at his play at Iowa, phenomenal at the center position, and he's getting mocked in like second, third rounds. If the Texans can get him in that third round at pick 69, I think you let him battle it out with Jake Andrews, whoever is better, you let him run out there. The one, issue and the one worry I have, and I think Texans fans, all of us have, can Nick Caserio, can this staff evaluate at the O-line in the NFL draft, because the only hit I see really has been Ariante Ursery. Besides that, it's all whiffs over the past 5 years.
Yeah. And it's funny, though, one other guy you could say is a hit based on when they drafted him is Patterson. I think is the guy based on the value and when they didn't take him like 5th round or 6th round.
Yeah, they got him in the 6th round. I've liked Patterson from time to time. I think he's a really smart player, but for what the Texans want to do, I would like to see them try to move on from him and trade him for a late, 6th round, 7th round pick, flip him for at least what you got him for, a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Because I think in the right scheme, he can be a good player. But for what the Texans want to do, they want to get more physical. And that's not really Patterson's game. He has it up here. He is biggest lineman we have on the roster right now. But for what the Texans want to do and just move big bodies off the line, that's not him. Like, he's a lighter guy at that center spot. And as much as we kind of all like to kind of crap on Jake Andrews, he wasn't, unplayable last year. I think he is a average center, probably would rank somewhere between 12 and 18 in terms of NFL centers, which, in the grand scheme of things, when you think about it, if you're, maybe bringing in a new left guard, upgrading at that spot, have Braden Smith, the cohesive offensive line together could possibly, raise his game next year too. So I think you go out and get a really good center in the draft in round 2, round 3. You let him battle it out. I don't really see any other option in free agency. You thought maybe Elgin Jenkins, because he has that center left guard flexibility to where he could battle it with Jake Andrews or play the left guard. The Texans were in on him, and then obviously got beat out by the Cleveland Browns for his services. But I think, the center spot probably going to go through the draft and then just keep Jake Andrews, let those two guys battle it out.
Yeah, one guy that is fascinating to me in terms of like free agency still is Ethan Posich. He's a massive dude. He's one of those guys. It's a classic Casario veteran swing where you throw him like a Laken Tomlinson type of contract, and you have him in there. You got a bigger body. He's gonna at minimum provide competition. Maybe he doesn't even make it through, whatever. But you really low on the guarantees, just kind of giving him a spot to really kind of put his imprint. And at worst, he gives you a great guy to come in and kind of teach the younger guy you bring in. I agree. And this is something Leo brought up when we talked previously about it. And I really kind of warmed to the idea of it may be a good idea if we have these two like truly legitimate veteran guards. If we bring in a Wyatt Teller, or if we bring in a Baton, whoever we bring in the other spot, I think you can bring in a guy that's a transitional player, meaning that they maybe play tackle or guard in college, but they bring that high level physicality. Maybe a guy like Trey Zune from Texas A&M would be interesting later. He's got shorter arms, but he's a massive human. Someone different, maybe there's someone that we'd never, maybe Jennings Dunker. I know he took some snaps at a Senior Bowl. He would be exciting as hell. There's a Brian Parker out of Duke. That's a tackle. That's I know is going to move down.
I love
the
Brian
idea.
Parker round 3 or round 4.
Right. So there's some interesting things. I wonder if we're able to stabilize that other guard position. I think that's a good way to go. And I think at the tackle position, that's fascinating. And I'm curious what your vision of like the final thing I want to know is like kind of what your starting 5 would be at this moment. And you can fill it in with like rookie at this spot. But for me, it's like it's really hard because I almost like the idea of having a shorter arm tackle on the right side because it forces you to run the ball even more. It's like a handicap where you don't have the option. Like you're gonna maybe have to keep a guy in. You keep Foster Moreau in to kind of chip here and there against speed guys, but we don't have a ton of speed guys on the schedule. It's kind of more the physical big guys, and he's been able to handle. I mean, he gets whooped by Will Anderson like anybody. I think someone in the comments mentioned that. But, man, it would be fun to see if it's like you get him a right tackle, you have a strong right side with Ingram, whoever you have at center, probably a young guy at center, if you Postage or something. You bring in Wyatt Teller or whoever your veteran is on the left side, and then you get an Ursery. And you have Trent Brown as your swing guy, and you probably bring one more guard in behind of another veteran guard. and we'll get to it kind of at the end of some of the rumors and stuff. I think all that's still in play. But that's kind of what I'm looking at as like the vision right now. And now maybe you have a different vision of what you would do or what you think's going to happen, but I'm curious like what you think kind of. I know it's kind of hard playing the crystal ball at this point, but kind of what's your vision of it?
I mean, in a perfect world, I would say I would prefer a veteran option at the left guard spot only because, you have a second year guy in Ursary. He showed a lot of promise in year one, but I think that could lend yourself to having a lot of issues throughout the season if you throw in a rookie there at left guard. I mean, you could find a, really good like a Keelan Rutledge. Maybe I think he's played very well at Georgia Tech. I love the idea of bringing him in, but the only worry about bringing in a high-level rookie at left guard is you have a first-year guy right next to a second-year guy. And then
Yeah.
how's the communication going to go between those guys? The rookie left guard, he's learning the ropes. Ursary, this is his second year. I mean, he's definitely shown that he's up to snuff, can play the left tackle spot in the NFL, but that does worry me a little bit with, teams love to throw the Texans stunts. And I think there's not a stat in front of me right now that proves it, but I would say the Texans probably last season had more stunts thrown their way than most other teams because teams knew that they would be able to get the Texans with those simple stunts, like throwing a defensive end at the guard and letting, the D tackle go around or having a linebacker kind of swoop over the center position and just the Texans not being able to communicate it right, being able to pick up all the guys that are coming their way. That worries me a little bit. So the idea of getting a veteran left guard who he's had some skins on the wall, knows what he's doing, is able to kind of set Ursary in the right direction of saying like, hey, like I'm pushing this guy off to you. I'm taking the linebacker, defensive end, whoever's swooping over. I'd love the idea of that setup. Is that going to happen? Right now, I'm not sure. Like you said, maybe Ed Ingram has the flexibility to move over to that left guard spot, even though Ed Ingram, I would argue his biggest weakness is in pass protection. He's more of a mauler, a run blocking guard. But I think that's why I like the idea of going out and getting kind of like you said, maybe like a veteran, a prove it guy in a Ethan Posich or even a, similar type of guy at the guard spot to at least battle with some of these early round picks at the O-line. Cause I mean, it's no secret. The Texans, and if they should take 2 offensive linemen in the first 4 rounds. They should. Now, if they don't, I don't know what Casario's doing. But you got to replenish that talent. You got one guy last year in Ursary. Thank God it worked out. Like, could you imagine if Ursary didn't work out last year? Like the Texans O-line would have been screwed.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of learned from that. And like you said, learning from last year's mistakes, I think that's why you signed Trent Brown and you have Braden Smith. So you at least have, if something happens to Braden Smith, you have a competent tackle who can take over for him, or Ursary, kind of that swing guy who, and obviously that kind of shows how they feel about Blake Fisher at that spot too, as a swing tackle. But I think you need to be able to replenish the talent, get some good guards and centers, some interior guys in the draft, and then get some of these low risk, high reward veteran guards and centers in free agency. At least one more guy. Like I said, I would be okay with Jake Andrews if you went out and got a Wyatt Teller or somebody else, and then you let Jake Andrews compete with a rookie as well. I'd be okay with that. But, right now, if I'm looking in the crystal ball, Aaron Wilson has been reporting. He talked with Braden Smith, and Braden said, the Texans didn't mention anything about a position change to me. So that would lend me to believe that he's probably going to play the right tackle. Ed Ingram, right guard. I like that duo of being able to run block behind that right side and kind of like you said, almost force the Texans to run the ball more. I would say Jake Andrews, rookie battle at center, veteran rookie battle at left guard, and then Ursary obviously at that left tackle spot.
Yeah, I get that. And it's really interesting that you brought that up about like really worrying about Ursary next to another young guy and you saw it last year. Like Ursary didn't settle in until Titus moved over to left guard spot, and he didn't really
Exactly.
kind of settle anything. And Andrews mentally, even though he was playing injured, he mentally was still a really good processor, even though you could tell he was kind of dragging out there physically. Yeah,
And sneakily, like I said, Jake Andrews, playing that center spot. Jarrett Patterson, even though he's not a excellent run blocker, I think he really helped Ursery develop whenever he was at the left guard spot, because I think his ability to communicate, his ability to kind of read the defense before the ball is snapped, that really helped Ursery. And I thought his pass protection took a bump up whenever Patterson played left guard. Now, obviously the run blocking kind of dips a little bit with that move if you want to play Patterson at the left guard spot. But I do think, his ability to pick up stunts, his ability to pass block was improved with a guy like Jarrett Patterson at left guard.
No, I agree. And yeah, before we move on to our defensive side of the ball, let's run through some of these comments. Let's see up to the top. Right. Let's see. Yeah, he said 8 years he spent battling Texans. He's seen plenty of Will Anderson. Well, he's going to see more in practice, so God bless him, and it'll only make him stronger. Hopefully, he doesn't get whooped too bad, and that he gets like tripped up or something happens. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, going against Will Anderson in practice. That's tough. Like doing that in the Texas heat, like they're in training camp. God bless.
Oh my! It's like the joke of like him and like when you watch his high school tape. It's like this poor guy had an algebra test and then has to go out and block Will Anderson Jr. Like imagine the Texans tackles. And one thing that I think really boosted Ursery, the fact that he went up against Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter every day during preseason training camp. So whenever he got to the regular season, he's like, this actually isn't too bad compared to practice.
That's hilarious. Let's see. Brandon, what's up, Brandon? You're a long time. Let's see. Braden Smith. I almost called him Brandon Smith. Braden Smith overcomes short arms with hand placement. Absolutely. He's a technician. He's super lean too. Like he's massive, but he's just like 100% muscle. It's kind of crazy. It reminds me a little bit of like Tyron Smith, the way he was out there, where he was just like yoked up for like a massive dude.
Mm-hmm.
Length isn't everything. All right. God bless.
It's about how you use it.
Yeah, right. Let's see. Cytech signed Wyatt Teller, and we'd be ready to draft a rookie lineman. Yeah. And one thing I'm not worried about with Nick Cassera is his ability to bring in a mix of like rookies and veterans. He's never in his tired time as a GM has he come out and said, we're going to throw this rookie out here. We're going to give him the job, and God bless him, because it's just going to work. See, they didn't do it last year with Ursery. They didn't do it with Scruggs. Like they've done it across the board, where they've kind of always had veteran options to kind of compete and kind of push these guys, which is shows a lot of maturity. To see grade A offseason, awesome. Let's see. One more thing from Brandon. Maybe they even go Caden Proctor at guard. I mean, that's the thing. If you bring in a veteran, you can go take a swing on a guy like Caden Proctor, start him out at guard, plug him in at left guard next to Ursery, and like if you have those two, and then you got Ingram and you got Braden Smith, like you could have like I don't know, you could have that dude. Who's that dude? Lampkin that played for the Rams or something. The center who's like 270, and he was whooping people.
Willie Lampkin, and he was actually claimed by the Philadelphia Eagles. I remember that he was with the Rams. I believe he got claimed by the Eagles. I don't know if he's still on the Eagles roster, but yeah, he was like from North Carolina, that guy, right?
Yeah, right. And he had some tape in there where he was just whooping dudes. But you could have someone of that size and you'd be fine if you come in with that. I mean, Proctor's a little scary because there's just some inconsistencies with how talented he is. But yeah, let's see. Rumor Braden Smith only signed here for free rodeo tickets. I mean, I don't blame him. Like, I mean, that was like all serious though. It was crazy that value that we got him for. I thought he was gonna be kind of I don't know. Maybe there's some other concerns about. Maybe there's still the stigma of the OCD stuff he had that went on and some of the injury stuff. But hey, if we can take advantage of it, like God bless. All right. So let's move on. I don't think there's, if anyone has any super chat questions, you guys can throw it out. We'll jump back to the offensive line if you guys want more offensive line talk. But right now we're gonna jump in to, let's see, why is this doing this? Nope. Off. There we go. Turn off the timer. All right. Big ass letters. All right. New defensive weapons. Now I know you just recently did a video where you broke down. I was checking it out. It was some really, if you guys haven't checked it out, you go to @Texans TV on YouTube. Check out Jeremy's stuff. He did a great video on two of the guys I believe that we're gonna talk about now. You guys should definitely check that out. But we'll give you all a little taste of it. But if you guys want the full entree, you should go over there and check it out. So these are the four guys. It's real simple, really three, because one of the guys is a special teamer. They went and got Reed Blankenship, got him for 3 years, $24 million, which is a freaking elite deal. When you were looking at everyone was getting 3 for $40, was kind of like the deal for all starting safeties across the board. Like Kobe Bryant got it, Brian Cook, all these different guys that had experience. So you go get him, set it up, lock it in. He's a great kind of solid player out there. We'll get more into him. Then they went and got Logan Hall, 2 years, 13.75. Really fun to see. I think it was like $9 million guaranteed. So nothing crazy. You know, we'll get into more about kind of how we want to optimize them. Dominique Robinson, I loved him coming out. If you guys want to look at like measurements and kind of freak out now that we're in draft season, go back and look what his measurements were. He had long ass arms, crazy, like get off, just times and numbers out of a superhero book or something. You know, it was absolutely crazy. And the other guy was Jake Hummel. He's a special teams guy, but I mean, who knows the way DeMeco does with linebackers. DeMeco's fallen in love with Henry To'oTo'o. So who knows if he falls in love with Jake Hummel too. You know, there's a lot of different ways to go, and who knows who gets hurt, and he's got some experience. So those are kind of the guys that we added. We also brought back Sheldon Rankins. We brought back MJ Stewart. We brought back EJ Speed. We brought back Jones. And then I don't think I'm missing anyone else. They got rid of Jimmy Ward. Is there anyone I'm missing? I think that's pretty much it for defense.
No, and then I mean you have I guess I don't know if you're counting him as like somebody coming back, but 3rd round pick from last year, backup corner. From
Jalen Smith.
Yes, Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of in your mind think of him as an addition because he didn't get to play really any snaps last year. So you're basically adding that cornerback back onto your roster as like an addition this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question to you, I label all this stuff out. I like to view it as weapons. I have this kind of vision I've been talking about over and over again that if you're not improving on defense, you're going to get worse. You can't expect these defensive ends to carry you for 17 games and play at that high level and not get hurt. Like, it's just not realistic. You can't expect like everything to work in the secondary. Outside of Stingley, pretty much everyone kind of stayed relatively healthy. Just in general, Aziz played most of the year. You can't expect Aziz and the front undersized linebacker like that to play 17. So you have to improve. And I think there's some places here where they improved. I don't think they're done yet. I think they're in the draft as well. But so personally, like, how do you see this, and how do you think these new players are going to be utilized, and kind of how they're going to be weaponized? I like to think of it that way. How are they going to be weaponized in this defense and in the way that DeMeco's kind of using them, and Matt Burke's going to kind of take advantage of their talents?
Yeah. The one person that I think we did we mention EJ Speed too?
Yeah, I mentioned him. I just kind of passed by him. I should have said more, you know.
No, you're good. You're good. I think let's go from the new additions. Obviously, we know what we're getting from some of the guys that are re-signed. We know Sheldon Rankins, what he brings as a good 3 technique next to Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter. He brings pretty good, pass rush ability from that 3 tech. Naquan Jones, they claimed off of waivers last year from the Chargers, and he kind of takes over that, rotational nose tackle role. You'll have Tommy Togai start at the nose tackle whenever he needs a breather. They're going to bring in Jones for that spot. And then Logan Hall, I like the signing of him, former UH guy, obviously bringing him back. And you think there's reports that the Texans, DeMeco Autry, he's either going to go somewhere else or going to retire. And I think they're going to use Logan Hall as that, DeMeco Autry replacement, somebody who brings you inside out versatility, can line up at the D end if you need it. But I think, probably plays a little bit better as that 3 tech defensive lineman. I think he'll bring some versatility along that defensive line. And DeMeco Ryans, Matt Burke, they love to rotate, as you mentioned, the D line out because they want them to be fresh. They want Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter to be fresh off the edge, be able to beat the tackles every single time. My buddy, who's a Bears fan, he's the host of our Bears show here at Chat Sports. He said D-Rob, 1 year, $4 million is an absolute steal of a deal. He loves him as a change of pace defensive end to come in. He mentioned his long arms and his get off were two of his big attributes. And the Texans with DeMeco Autry last year, maybe, I know we're talking defense, but maybe have a secret weapon in a Dominique Robinson as somebody, DeMeco Autry, how many kicks did he block this past year or really kind of mess up that kicking of the other teams? And I think, they were like, oh, he only blocked a couple, but I think his big arms up the middle, that affected the kickers of being like, oh, I got to aim it this way. I got to aim it that way. And we saw more missed kicks up against the Texans than most of the NFL. And I probably would say a lot of that has to do with DeMeco Autry, him being able to rush up the middle. Maybe you look at D-Rob as somebody with those long arms, these attributes to possibly help out in that ability. The one signing, as you said, I think maybe one of the best value signings of throughout the cross of the NFL, Reed Blankenship. Our Eagles host, Chase Sr., here are the notes that he gave me. Overcame a broken leg at Middle Tennessee State, but tested really well at the combine. Really good athlete, but he earned a starting role. Really good safety, good leader. He's a willing tackler, good size, and he always seems to be in the right spot and is a really good guy to help everybody in the film room. And the Texans, they have maybe the most talented secondary in the NFL. They're all very young. Derek Stingley just got his second contract, but Kamari Lassiter, rookie deal. Kalen Bullock, he's also on a rookie deal. And I think the biggest thing about Bullock, he's a fantastic safety, but he's a gambler. He's going to gamble on balls, and he might get caught out of position here and there. And I think Reed Blankenship's kind of the opposite. He's somebody who he might get beat here and there due to, other guys being faster than him or, being, he's only he's good size, 6 foot. I believe he's like 6 foot, 200 something pounds. But maybe getting out jumped for the football, but he seems to always be in the right spot at the right time and is there mentally. And I think that balances out Kalen Bullock on the back end. And the Texans, they had a rotating door at safety last year and they still played well. I think Jalen Reed could still come in and give you some really good snaps, the second-year guy out of Penn State. But I think what Reed Blankenship will bring is a maturity to the secondary. He'll bring somebody who can come in and help these guys in the film room and help them point out tendencies of other quarterbacks, other teams, and also be somebody on the back end who, if he sees Kalen Bullock kind of making a move or, doing something to make a gamble, can maybe help on the back end to prevent a 60-yard touchdown, maybe turn it into a 30-yard catch instead by being able to rotate over and help out in that aspect. So I really like the idea of going out and getting Reed Blankenship and, not to all roads lead back to the Texans offensive line. I think this signing makes it to where you don't have to go out and, draft another safety in the top 3 rounds. You filled that need with free agency. You filled that need with Reed Blankenship. You also have a young guy in Jalen Reed. So safety, no longer really a need for the Texans. They could possibly get somebody if they really like a safety that falls. But I think the addition of Reed Blankenship kind of opens up the door for you to double, triple dip at offensive line in the draft.
No, I agree. I think I kind of see him as the perfect way is like connective tissue where it's not going to be sexy all the time. He's still going to make plays when they come to him and he's going to has the instincts and everything, but he's just going to sit back there. He's going to make the right decision. Just come down, fill the lane, make tackles, just really simple things that you don't always see, similar to like a Ryan Clark was for like a Troy Polamalu, where they would kind of Polamalu would make these crazy instinct plays, and now you can kind of truly unleash Kalen Bullock's instincts, because his ability to close and click and see things and make plays over the middle, especially how good our corners are, I think it's really exciting. The guy that's really fascinating to me, and a guy that as a recovering Saints fan, um, that was really interesting to me, and I know the Saints liked him as well. That I feel like never really got fully optimized was Logan Hall for the
Mm,
Bucks. I feel like he was in a scheme where it never really. They were asking him to two gap there. They were asking him to play five tech, and they moved him around some. They blitzed a little bit, but he always seemed like he was in that facilitation role and never really utilized for the kind of talent he had as the quickness, the kind of he does play high at times, but
mhm,
when you're that long, that physical, that kind of athlete, I think you can kind of dust off some of DeMeco's stuff that he used to run with Buckner and with Armstead, and some of the interesting movement things where you can move them out on the edge. You can do some different things. In early downs, you can maybe take, you can take Hunter off the field, or you can take Will off the field and kind of do some interesting games and stuff with the linebackers. If you're coming in a little heavier with the 5-man fronts, he can come in and kind of play that kind of over tackle kind of 4-eye spot for you a little bit at times. But I think he
mhm.
just diversifies your ability to really kind of use the linebackers as blitzers more, and kind of gives you a body type. I always talk about, like, at linebacker and safety, you want to have guys that all look a little bit different. We still don't we don't really have any long linebackers outside of like EJ Speed, and I think this is the first time we had like a truly long defensive tackle or defensive lineman. Like, we had it with Autry, but they kind of were never. He was at the end of his career. He wasn't kind of an ascending player like the way Hall is, and at 26, I'm really excited. And the fact that they not only go get him, they go back and get Dominique Robinson, who I think is a similar kind of upside swing as Darrell Taylor was last year. And I think they should keep doing this because they're not going to be in position to kind of get these high level guys. So they got to go for these traits guys and see if they can hit lightning. I'm glad they're kind of moving off. Maybe if they get him back, if Derek Barnett comes back, I don't know if he signed yet. That's fine, but
I still think he's a free agent.
yeah, yeah. If he goes somewhere else, that's fine. I think it's good to add more athleticism and get younger and do all the things. It's great if he comes back because he's a great third or fourth guy. But you got to keep swinging and bringing guys in, because eventually Daniil Hunter's going to retire,
Mhm.
and Dylan Horton has been solid, but he hasn't shown you that much. I think you keep swinging on guys like that. I really like the idea of Dominique Robinson special teams, and I'm really fascinated by Logan Hall going in that role as well, and kind of moving him around with how long and big he is, and similar role that Autry is. But I think across the board, it's going to be fun. None of these guys are like super spicy and exciting, and guys with like big name brands and everything. But I think within our scheme and with what we have already and the guys that they're replacing and kind of how you can use them, I think they'll elevate the really big stars, and they'll play complementary, but also have the traits to kind of give you some splash plays as well.
I agree. I agree. And, it's a lot easier whenever you're Logan Hall and you're lining up next to Will Anderson Jr. rather than, whoever the Bucks were trotting out there for defensive end this past season. I know Yaya Diaby, he's a decent, speed rusher, but nobody on the Bucks roster even sniffs Daniil Hunter or Will Anderson Jr.'s jockstrap. Like, none of those
Yeah.
pass rushers they have were in the same stratosphere as these guys. So when you line him up next to a Will Anderson Jr. and he's getting the attention he is, I think a lot of the times, if he is just playing his role in the right spot, I mean, we saw it with, guys like Tim Settle and the defensive tackles this past year. A lot of times the sack will just come to you. Will Anderson is going to force the quarterback up the middle. And then if you're in the right spot, you can make a play on it. And I think getting these guys with really good attributes and high upside, like you said, Logan Hall, Dominic Robinson, if they're able to, learn from Matt Burke, learn from DeMeco Ryans and play their role, then they can find that same, niche as a Danico Autry, as a Tim Settle did this past year, and, blindly find their way into 3 or 4 sacks easily this year with how Daniil Hunter, how Will Anderson Jr. absolutely just crushed the pocket and forced the quarterback to step up.
Yeah, I mean, or go get 24 million like Tim Settle got, which was just
Yeah.
that was so crazy. It shows you how desperate the market was for
Mhm.
defensive tackles. And it's funny, the one position that you can kind of hold over Casario's head in terms of letting certain guys go and everything is defensive tackle. With him letting both Roy Lopez still bouncing around at a high level, and also Malik Collins. So the fact that he's hitting on all these guys, but he's also missing on a couple of guys. Like, imagine if we had Malik Collins in the middle of his defense right now, and kind of it's interesting that that's how well he does it with scouting these defensive tackles, and it's kind of a thing he does across the roster at a lot of different spots, but defense tackles specifically, and it's probably DeMeco's part of that too. I just wish for me, and this is a bigger point, I wish some of that would kind of drip into the drafting side of it, because it seems like we haven't really gone after that defensive tackle. And I'm hopeful this is the year that they finally do it, but that's a whole nother. We'll have you back and talk more draft and all that, but like that's the one place.
They said they would get younger, and Logan Hall is younger.
Yeah.
I mean, 26 years old. There's guys getting drafted 24, 25. So, I mean, they said they wanted to get younger, and some of these guys they're bringing in free agency would constitute as a younger addition. So
Yeah, it's nice to see them not kind of chasing the kind of run back with the Foley thing. Foley was great 2 years ago. Casemiro stay healthy last year, so kind of they're moving cycle forward and kind of still trying to get those upside swings. It's really fun to see. Out of these four guys, I know you kind of touched on it, but quickly, is there one guy that you kind of star as like your favorite out of these guys that are brought in?
Oh, Reed Blankenship for sure. I think Reed Blankenship, like I said, he kind of completes the back end, and the secondary was already a strength. I think Reed Blankenship will only make that a little bit better. And I mentioned, PFF good for O-line grades. I think they're awful for secondary. Like everybody points to, Reed Blankenship had a 38 PFF grade this past year. Excuse me, hold on. Let me get a sip of my water. Everybody points to him not playing well this past year. Also, you have to think he was much better in 2024. Who was next to him? CJ Gardner-Johnson. Much better safety than Sidney Brown. So I think a lot of the times guys get, their grade kind of taken down. They kind of get docked for stuff that might not even be their fault.
No, absolutely. Yeah, for me, the guy out of these guys, just to give something different, man, I think for me it's probably Logan Hall. I just think there's untapped potential there that's really exciting. I'm looking through some of these comments. Logan Hall was obviously a big talking point looking through some of these because he's the hometown kid and everything. Let's see. Logan Hall, let's see for this one. Logan Hall in the same trajectory as Autry. Hopefully so. I mean, Autry's a bad boy, man. I don't know. Him young at this younger age, he was just absolutely, when he was over there stuck in like Raiders purgatory, he was having some years where it was fun to watch his tape. And then let's see who else. Autry didn't do anything for his first 4 years either. Oh, I guess that's what Brandon's saying. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. We will focus great on defense again. Focus. Let's see. Oh, here's a fun one from Brandon. Brandon's on fire today. Crazy fact: Logan Hall practiced against Liam Cohen's offense every day in 2024. Maybe he's got some tips for us. I think it all comes down to just freaking tackling and playing disciplined and everyone working as a unit and being as stubborn as they are in terms of running the ball.
I will say everybody kind of was going at me and kind of razzing me a little bit because I made a video, not even a video, I just made a short around the Patriots. They signed Darrell Taylor the week we were playing them in the playoffs, and I was like, oh, is Darrell Taylor gonna give some inside information? And everybody was like, Texans literally just send 4 every time. They literally go man and send 4 every time. So like, what information is he gonna give? I was talking more on the offensive side of the football for the Houston Texans, saying like he goes against the Texans offense every day. He might be able to give them something, any information. Did he help out? Did he not? I mean, he got cut immediately after. So I don't know, but this is a good point though with Liam Cohen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, who knows how much that helped or not. I think us having like 80 billion receivers hurt and CJ Stroud forgetting how to throw the football and protecting it. That was a whole different thing.
And us going play action with no run game definitely helped for sure with Caleb on chasing, not even respecting the run fake and just running straight towards CJ Stroud. And
Right.
he was
Right.
like, you know what? First down, no way I can take a sack here. I got to
Right.
throw it up 50 feet in the air. Like,
Yeah.
when you get a chance to throw it 50 feet up in the air, like, you take that.
And Harrison Bryant tripping over I think it was Titus Howard or Ursery or something. That was classic. Here's a funny, we split up with two duos, both Sonic and Knuckles and the Exciting Whites. So they're talking about the two running backs. I think Sonic and Knuckles was Montgomery and Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Exciting Whites are all the white guys they have in the secondary over there in Philly.
Yeah. Cooper DeJean is really nice too. He plays in that same role as Petrie does for the Eagles, but he plays it different, if that makes sense. Like Petrie, he plays as that like pseudo third linebacker where he really comes up and like brings the boom. He plays pretty well in coverage where I think, for Philadelphia, they really disguise Cooper DeJean a lot better, and he's able to kind of pick his spots here and there to kind of like Kalen Bullock in the slot where he takes a lot of gambles, but he's really smart, gets a lot of PBUs, interceptions over there for Philadelphia. But
yeah, absolutely. Texans tangent. What's up, man? Josh and Jeremy, 2 J's in the morning, 2 J's at night. Hey, man.
Smoke them if you got them.
It's not 420 yet, so we still got a month for that. Let's see. All right, so Cullen the Irishman's been on fire. He says, Ursery, nobody, Ingram, and 2 injury-prone right tackles. He just hates everything about the Texans right now. They've gone all in on defense and Dollar General on offense. Hey, man, I hope you're wrong.
Would it change your mind, Cullen? Would it change your mind if they went their first 4 picks offense in the draft?
Yeah, right. I know. You got to wait for the full picture. That's the thing.
Because when you think about offense, they traded for a new running back. I think David Montgomery is really good. Like, is he a top 5, top 10 running back? No, but I think he's an improvement of what we had last year with him. And then, if you get a development of Woody Marks, you go out and you bring in Ed Ingram. And for his price tag, I mean, I'd rather have Ingram at what was it? 3 years, 37.5 than Elijah Tucker, 3 years, 42 million. And he's played 12 games over the past 3 years. Like,
yeah,
I'd much rather have that value. And then the Texans, they went out and they got Foster Moreau. Like, it's not going to be anything splashy because I think the splashiest plays are, going to be, did we want to pay Kenneth Walker? What did he get? $15 million a year. Like, I'd much rather have Montgomery at his price tag and be able to sign an extra offensive lineman rather than get if you get Kenneth Walker, are you getting Braden Smith? Are you getting possibly Braden Smith and another lineman? Like, I don't think so, because you're allocating all that money to the running back spot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gosh, stupid screen. I'm trying to use my touch screen and it's not. There we go. Off. All right. The last thing, we're going to run through this, but I want to make sure y'all have all the updated info, kind of what the T is, Texans T. I know that someone has that account on Twitter. Sometimes interesting stuff. But this is all the T, kind of the rumors and targets and everything. So real quickly, a couple things that we've heard out there from specifically Aaron Wilson. He did a live stream. You guys should go check that out. Some of the stuff that he talked about, the Texans were involved. You mentioned him. Elton Jenkins was a guy that they were looking at, but they opted not to trade anything for him. They didn't feel like it was worth to give up whatever, was going to be that thing. And then they weren't going to outspend Cleveland because they're absolutely desperate. And the amount of money and guaranteed money that they gave him to sign there, it's definitely the Cleveland tax, right? Mm-hmm. And then moving down, I know people are talking about Wyatt Teller. There's a lot of mixed things going on. Like Aaron Wilson talked about, they're still interested, but nothing's imminent. But also they might have moved on. So there's a lot of different things. But one thing Aaron talked about is he reiterated that he expects a move for left guard at some point. Maybe they'll circle back around, but I think both of us kind of mentioned already that they're going to bring more veterans in, so people don't need to freak out. I think what they're doing now is letting the market kind of come to them because there's no one worth kind of going crazy for. And luckily with Braden Smith, that market just came right into their lap, and they knew they wanted him. So maybe Wyatt Teller goes out there. They say, bring back whatever offer you have, your best offer. We'll see if we want to match it. If not, we'll maybe offer you this. And if you want to come to a better situation, there's a better chance to win, you can come here, kind of give him that choice. But there's a lot of interchangeable guys. He's the youngest of them, and you have to decide if, like, injury wise, you're okay with all that. But other than that, I mean, the other things that Aaron Wilson said, and I'm going to run through these real quick, and then you can react to them. This is all offensive line T and rumors and stuff. But he says Houston is still going to look to add more O-line depth and help across. We already know that. And then also, you mentioned this previously, Aaron Wilson, Braden Smith is expected to be the team's right tackle. So he's coming in with that expectation. And it's funny, the other thing that sided this, and it wasn't on my notes, but I heard this recently, was that they actually, part of the deal with them signing Trent Brown back is that they were going to give him a legitimate chance to compete for right tackle and start. So that's kind of two things kind of working. If Trent Brown really comes out there and just whoops ass and plays like he did at the end of the year, it might be a situation where they have two guys that are really great players at playing at a really high level, and they may start off the year and have to move maybe Braden Smith inside at first and then move him out. And is he willing to do that? I don't know. It'll be fascinating, but I think it makes a ton of sense that you're not going to commit to where he's playing. You're going to say he's a right tackle right now because you don't want to limit anything. You don't want to come out and look desperate at right tackle in the draft and all that. But based on all those little things, is there anyone kind of, in terms of O-line, the only other thing, I'll just run through this real quick because it's one last thing. The Texans were also in Lions linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez, who decided to go back to Detroit. He would have been a fun pickup as that third linebacker. I talk about getting guys that have a little different skill set. He would have been fun to bring in as that physical, like Sam backer that kind of gives you something you don't have with the other spots. But there's also guys out there, and this is a great linebacker class in terms of the draft. So you can get a guy in the 4th, 5th round that can do similar things to Malcolm Rodriguez. But based on kind of all of these kind of rumors and stuff, what do you expect moving forward with the offensive line? Is there any of these kind of reports that really jump out to you? Kind of what is your temperature of everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Texans they're going to look for good value here. Like they, I don't think they're going to, as you said with Elgin Jenkins, right? Cleveland spent a little bit more of a tax. And I think the Texans, one thing that Nick Caserio always says is like he wants to improve within the margins and improve like where he can and spend the money wisely. I don't think they're in the market. Like they know they drafted well. They have a really good young core. And, I know Texans fans, what we all want to see happen is you go out and get I think for the first time they did that this year at maybe the right tackle spot with Braden Smith, but go out and get the number one guy at this spot, the number one, whatever. I think now that they got Braden Smith, they're going to look for the best fit and value that they can to kind of match. And, is it Wyatt Teller? Is it Joel Bitonio? Maybe, I know there's been murmurs here and there of Kevin Zeitler from Tennessee. He's another option. Somebody that I've been kind of looking at as a possibility. He's been injured the past 2 years, but Will Hernandez, he's another guard option. He did play.
I haven't heard that name in a while. Yeah.
He did play in Arizona while Matt Burke was coaching there. So if anybody kind of has an inside scoop on him and his abilities and like what he could possibly bring in, maybe Matt Burke, I know he's on the defensive side, but he went up against him every day in practice. His guys were going up against him, was looking at him every day. That's another option. I think the Texans, there's still plenty of, mid-tier guards, like veteran guys who can maybe come in and start for 1 or 2 years. And it all leads back into the Texans and their ability to evaluate in the draft. Because I think the goal from this draft should be, can you get one good starting player on the O-line? You did it last year with Ursery. Now you only spent one pick on the O-line. And like I said, thank God they were able to get the right guy. But the goal this year should be, you need one starting offensive lineman. You need one guy to start. whether that's at the center spot, like a guy like, Logan Jones, Jake Slaughter, Connor Liu. My wife is an Indiana alum. I watched every single game. I fell in love with Pat Coogan. I think he's a good middle round option as well. Whether it's at the center spot or the guard spot. If you get one of these tackles like a Proctor or a Dunker or a true guard in this draft, like I really like Keelan Rutledge. A lot of people, I've been mixed on the what's his name from Texas A&M.
Chase
Bisontis.
Basantis.
Yes, Chase Basantis. I've heard mixed reviews around him, but a possibility there in the second or third round with him as well. Maybe you spend your first round pick on like Pregnon out of Oregon, who gives you that center guard flexibility. But you need one starter. You need to get one starter in the draft, and the rest of free agency, it's about getting guys who can maybe push these rookies, getting somebody who at least is like giving you, okay, if the rookie you got, worst case scenario turns out to be a bust, is not ready at all, then you can have this guy start for this season. So I think for the rest of free agency, it's, getting good value here and there where you can, maybe getting, like you said, maybe one more linebacker who can help you out, or one more defensive tackle or D lineman. I don't think the Texans really need a wide receiver. Maybe getting another running back if you can, like another, speed back. I don't know how the Texans feel about Jawar Jordan. I know he had that one big game last year against Arizona, and, he's more of a kind of speed guy. But throughout the rest of free agency, I would be shocked if the Texans made. I think the most massive move they would make would be getting a Wyatt Teller or a Kevin Zeiler. I think the rest of free agency, the Texans are going to be pretty low key up until the draft, and then after the draft, if they don't like, how they address certain positions or feel like they still have a major need, then they're going to make one more big move after the draft. But pre-draft free agency, I think it's Wyatt Teller, or you're going to get very low-key signings.
Yeah, it seems like there's just too much smoke around Wyatt Teller, where he's the one guy I agree that they're kind of zeroed in and on now in terms of like if the numbers are right, he's the one guy they might add. I think other than that, they'll add multiple guys that we won't see coming because nothing leaks from the Casario the Casario ship. There's nothing coming from there, so we just kind of see there's always these offensive linemen that come out of nowhere that you're not even thinking about. I like the idea of Will Hernandez. I haven't thought about him, and it was about 2 years ago that I was thinking about him for the Texans, and then he kind of like faded away. I guess was he in Arizona last year?
Yeah, he was in Arizona last year. I actually think he was injured. Let me pull up. Yeah, he only played 7 games last year. So let me try to see what injury
that's why I completely forgot about him, because he just went to Arizona.
Yeah, the past 2 years he's had some injuries. So placed on injured reserved. 2024 he had an ACL, and then this past season placed on IR with a hip injury. But also Arizona, I mean, if you're Will Hernandez at his age, like, I don't know how severe that injury was, but I mean, they weren't playing for anything in particular. I mean, if you're the Cardinals halfway through the season, you're probably like, what's the point in, playing an injured guy who could possibly, get re-injured at some point.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating. This is going to be like in terms of draft and everything. There's a shift now philosophically on the offensive line where we're going to see them go after different veteran guys that we didn't see before. Like, we're not going to go out for a Laken Tomlinson at this point. Like, we're going to go after guys that are plus run players. We've seen it across the board who they're targeting. Like, Wyatt Teller, when he's healthy, is a plus run player. Some of the rookies that are going to go after are plus run players. Maybe there's a chance that a guy drops to us in the first round that's like, holy shit, how is he? Like, would it be crazy? Like, for me, the thing, and I know I'll get someone might lose their mind a little bit because they don't like moving up for offensive linemen, but for me, I would love to go up for Fano and just plug him in at center and just say, you know what, we're good. he's like the safest damn bet in this whole class. The way he moves and the size and his physicality. Like,
I
give me that short arm king and just plug him in there.
Spencer Fano at center.
Yeah, because he was taking reps at that would assume that we would have gotten a veteran at left guard or something like that. But like, I think this is such an interesting class. There's so many guards. Like, I really like the kid out of Auburn, right? He's a massive dude. Farmer out of Kentucky. There's just there's even the other kid from A&M, Armage. I'm screwing up I can't remember his last name. It's like a hyphenation, like
Yeah.
Adams or something or other. He's a beast too. Like, he's a like central casting gap blocker, just kind of just kneecap chewing, kind of make like Dan Campbell blush a little bit kind of player.
Can I give you one more sneaky name that I've been looking at too?
Yeah.
He's a restricted free agent, so you got to play that game of, the Texans could sign him to an offer sheet, and then the team that he's with right now, they would have 5 days to either match or he's a Houston Texan. Jordan Meredith with the Las Vegas Raiders this past year played center. I don't know why he played center. Pete Carroll was infatuated with having him there, even though, JPJ I thought was a better center than he was. But in 2024, he played, I want to say around like 500, 600 snaps at left guard. All his PFF grades were in the 80s. When you go and look at what he did at left guard, he played really well for the Raiders. And he does, like I said, he gives you that kind of same, think of like Elgin Jenkins light with him. Still, I believe he's like 6'2", 305 pounds, 310 pounds. So a decent sized guy, been in the league for 4 or 5 seasons, but gives you that kind of the same thing with Elgin Jenkins. I think better guard than center, but can play center if needed. And he is a restricted free agent right now. So the Texans would have to go out and sign him to an offer sheet. Then the Raiders would have 5 days to either match or just let the Texans take him. He was a UDFA, so I think the Raiders would want to match that offer sheet, which I don't know if Nick Caserio wants to play that game of, will we get this guy? Will we not? I think he's more of a, we want to know that we're signing this guy and this is who we're getting. But he's a really intriguing option. I think the Raiders would match. Like, the Texans obviously wouldn't give him a crazy deal. And if they tried to sign him to like a 2-year or even like a 2 or 1 year deal for, $6 or $7 million per season, I think the Raiders match it. But if they don't, I think he's a very intriguing option for the Texans to look at too, if you're looking for a veteran option on the interior.
Yeah, I haven't heard his name in a while. That would be fascinating. And maybe throw some kind of poison pill contract out there that kind of, old school not Omar Ashik, but who was it? It was, I knew Daryl Morey did. I may have been Omar Ashik doing a contract that was kind of funky that kept him there. That's a way old school name, like way back.
Dude, oh yeah. But I remember whenever him and Jeremy Lin first came into town, and
yeah. Right. But yeah, man, I mean, we could go deep into this. I'll do one more comment. Texans Tan just said, what tight ends after Sadiq? We'll just keep it simple. Is there one tight end you really like? I think tight end's a position that's sneaky, that it's really loaded in the middle of the draft. I think it's up there with offensive line where you have to replenish it and you have to you have to bring a guy who's a plus in the run game and has some upside. And luckily this is a draft that's kind of stacked with that.
I mean, I would say just from, based on history, based on kind of what I was hearing from some of the chat sports guys that were at the combine and just kind of the murmurs that they heard there. The kid out of Stanford has a lot of people that really like him. Sam Roush.
You took my guy.
He's a good blocker, and not a lot of receiving production, but also didn't have good quarterback play.
It's Stanford. Yeah. You throw that out.
You look at the long lineage of tight ends from Stanford, right? Like Zach Ertz. You have why am I now blanking?
Austin Hooper. Who else?
They've had like 3 or 4 guys come out of Stanford.
Kobe Fleener.
Yes,
for the throwback machine.
He's a name. If you're looking for more of a receiving threat, our draft guy really likes Royer out of Cincinnati as well. Just off the top of my dome, I'm trying to think right now of some
Yeah,
other
that's
guys.
fine. We don't have to go crazy. We'll have you back and talking like as you get
Yeah.
deeper in the draft stuff and everything. We don't have to go full breakdown. I mean, there's so many tight ends. The kid out of A&M is really fun as a blocker. If you want a pure blocker, you want to get him late. The kid that you talk about watching a lot of Indiana, I think it's like Nowakowski or something.
Oh yeah. I mean,
He would
I
be fun towards the end of the draft.
he reminds me of do you remember when the Texans had what's his name? James Casey?
Yeah, yeah.
He kind of reminds me of that archetype where he's a fullback, tight end, kind of do it all Swiss Army knife guy, really good receiver at the fullback spot, good blocker. Um, and the Texans, I would say they kind of wanted that guy to be Jakob Johnson last year, but maybe you draft Nowakowski in round 5 and have him be that role. I think he'd be a good option. Loved watching. And at Indiana, you have the 2 receivers who are going to go in the top 2 rounds. You have Omar
Mhm.
Cooper, you have Elijah Surratt, which I don't know about you. I know you love the NFL draft as well. I'm maybe the number 1 fan of Elijah. I'm the Elijah Surratt fan club. I've been saying I think he's better than Omar Cooper. When you watch all the games, Omar Cooper, he's fantastic, great route runner. I think a little bit of a quicker guy than Elijah Surratt, but Elijah Surratt's body control and his ability on those back shoulder fades, those back shoulder catches is incredible. And I think whatever team gets him in the late second round, third round, they're getting a gift. But with those 2 guys, some of the biggest plays throughout the season in the passing game actually came from Noah Kowski, who really good at hitting the guy at the point of attack, blocking the linebacker, blocking whoever it is, and then leaking out and being
Mhm.
able to
Right.
be able to get the catch, get the 5 or 6 dirty yards to get the first down or whatever's needed. So many times he was able to extend drives for Indiana by doing just that, being able to protect Fernando Mendoza, buy him a little extra time whenever he's kind of rolling out, nobody's open, then he just leaks out right into the flat and catches the ball easily for a first down. He's somebody who I really like, and I would be ecstatic if the Texans got him in the draft.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. He would be a fun like late round, like another guy that we like didn't see much of, but like I really like this college tape if he can stay healthy is Luke Lachey, who's I
Mhm.
think he's still around. He's really fun. I really like his hands, good blocker.
You
Can he stay healthy?
bring in James Ferentz,
Right. Right. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Iowa
Maybe he
guy.
unlocks the Luke Lachey experience.
Mhm.
Um, but man, thank you for coming in, man. Can you let everyone know kind of where they can check all your stuff out? And it's really great stuff. Like if you guys love those like shorter, quick hitting videos, like really digestible, not like this long slog of a live stream where it's a bunch of information. You can watch this in small doses and get through this whole thing, but he does a great job with these smaller form, shorter form videos that are really fun to watch. Can you let us know like where we can get your stuff and kind of check out all your stuff you're doing?
Yeah, just go on YouTube, Texans Today by Chat Sports or Texans Chat Sports. You'll find me right there. Trying to get to 50,000 subs before the NFL draft. We're getting close. We're at like 48 something right now. So that's where you can find me on YouTube. If you want, even shorter form content, I am also on TikTok. Me and all the Gen Zers and Gen Alphas are there on TikTok at Jeremy Chuggs. You can find me there on TikTok or on Twitter. I'm putting out more of my videos and more of my thoughts on those accounts as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, and if everyone that's on here, if you guys came all the way to the end with us, make sure you like it, make sure you sub, make sure you become a member if you want to do that. We're gonna start putting out more short form stuff of all we're gonna break down all these different guys brought in. Leo will be back next week most likely. He's on the mend. We really appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next week. Every Wednesday 8 p.m. like clockwork, and we'll catch y'all later.